Hey everyone, this is John Rollins, and it is Wednesday. That means that it's time for our weekly S.T.R.I.V.E session. Strategies to remain informed, strategies to remain victorious, strategies to remain empowered. I hope that you've had a wonderful beginning to your week. I hope that everything that you have been looking for, that you started to find it, that is becoming a reality in your life. And I'm excited about being with us here for this session. S.T.R.I.V.E again is strategies to remain informed, strategies to remain victorious, strategies to remain empowered. We're trying to give you information that we believe will be of value to you while you're here trying to navigate this journey called life. I believe that we are speaking information that may be of value to you both personally, relationally, professionally. Our goal is to just try to give you something that will equip you to win. Our topic for tonight is, what do you think about? So what do you think about? There may be times when people have been seeking input or advice or counsel from others, and they introduce the topic or they solicit feedback from someone by using the question, so what do you think about? And many times when they ask that question, they're looking for the opinions of others, or they're probably genuinely trying to find out something about a topic that they may not know anything about, that they've not been introduced to. An example, someone may come up and ask you, so what do you think about, and they list some type of animal that's about to go extinct. Maybe they heard it on a news report or read it in an article. So what do you think about that animal out on the, on that island out there that tiny island? The one out there on the coast of the Pacific Ocean. They may have no idea what's going on, so they may have a genuine interest in hearing your thoughts or your feelings. Now, there are other times when people may come and ask you a question. They may be trying to generate a discussion or debate with the individual. They may call it fishing, or they may call it trolling. They ask you about a hot topic in society. Maybe ask you about, so what are your thoughts on the elections? Or, so what do you think about this social injustice or this social unrest? Or what do you think about religion? So what do you think about this pandemic, this COVID-19? Where do you think it came from? Okay, so they may be just trying to ask you questions to get you into a discussion or a debate. There's some podcasters or some investigative reporters or some YouTubers who make a name for themselves by getting individuals to get in that proverbial mud and then start slinging it at each other. And please understand, I'm not saying that every instance where there's a discussion on a hot topic or a controversial topic, that the intent is to get the dirt to start flying. But regardless of the intent, I found that there's a lot of hanging out some laundry that result from many of these so-called discussions. So even though that may not be the intent, sometimes that's how it ends up, or that's where we end up going with discussions that get us off topic. Someone once said, look, I've learned a long time ago never to wrestle with a pig. You're going to get dirty, and the pig loves it. I've learned to respect the individual's opinion on some of those controversial topics. In fact, at times, I even find it refreshing to hear someone who has some rational discussion points and they're giving a perspective that's different from mine. I enjoy having those types of encounters or those interactions. Now, regardless of whether or not I agree with you or not, I celebrate that you've taken time to give thought to the topic. You're confident enough to share your thoughts. So I appreciate that. Personally, I believe that it is these types of exchanges that are going to be necessary for our society to start healing from some of the divisive issues that we're dealing with in this season. Now, I have a tendency, and again, the topic is, what do you think about? I have a tendency to allow my mind to wander. Okay. When my children were young, we would be driving down the road and I may see some deer on the side of the road or whatever. Just any animal. And I will ask them, so what do you think those deer are thinking right now? And then I would try to begin a conversation to use something so abstract, but then my purpose was try to expand their imagination. And now when they were younger, they would entertain me. But as they got older, they would put their headphones in their ears and pretend like they didn't hear me. But I found that thinking expands the imagination. Thinking increases vision. Thinking enlarges the mind. And then when we employ right thinking, can you see how that could be beneficial, or how that would be beneficial for us? So George Bernard Shaw, I don't know if you've ever heard of him before, but he was a great philosopher. George Bernard Shaw said, 2% of people think. He said, 3% of people think they think. 95% of people would rather die than think. You think about that. People, 95% of the people that we encounter on a daily basis don't think. They choose not to think. And I don't know about you, but I find that kind of disturbing. George Bernard Shaw also said, few people think more than 2 to 3 times a year. He said, I've made an international reputation for myself by thinking 2 to 3 times a week. Can you imagine that? Now, we've heard about the 1%ers, the 2%ers, the 3%ers, the 5%ers, and then we've heard about the 95, the 98%ers. When we give attention to those numbers, I found that there's a pattern that starts to appear. Thinkers, planners, goal setters, they all seem to fall within that 3 to 5%, while the rest of the people who function on a daily basis, the 95%ers, the 97%ers, those are the individuals who react. The thinkers, the planners, the goal setters, these are people who are initiating action. They're making things happen. They're causing activity, while the rest of the people are waiting for something to happen, and then they react to it. And I understand that thinking is work, much like the other things that cause people to separate or distinguish themselves from the crowd. But the reality is that the individuals who consistently land in the upper percentile for what we call success, they operate from a different vantage point than the masses. And I believe that our society, with the advent of technology, I believe that we're experiencing a thinking extinction. A thinking extinction. People seem to do everything possible to make sure that they simplify their lives to the point that they don't have to think about it. We've been told that we're creatures of habit, and we actually understand that there's value in having the habits because it simplifies our lives. Okay, but when we use those habits to the point where we no longer are required to, or we no longer employ thinking, then I think we start to suffer down. This is an opinion. This is, in fact, I haven't done any research. But when we stop making thinking a requirement for our existence, we're going to suffer as people. Now, there's always going to be a group of people who think. There's always going to be someone who will use their minds. Okay, but those who are failing to think, those are us. Those are people who are failing to use their minds. Those individuals are more likely going to become the subjects of the workforce, and dare I say, even the slaves of the individuals who will use their minds. When we don't think and we let somebody else do our thinking for us, the person who is doing the thinking will start being the person who does the controlling. Now, there are a lot of people now who have embraced this artificial intelligence, and I celebrate artificial intelligence. But I resist the concept that the use of artificial intelligence should replace human intelligence. I mean, if you just take a moment and consider what I just said, replacing human intelligence with artificial intelligence. Why would we take something artificial, fake, false, an imitation, something that's non-natural, something that is synthetic, to replace something that is original, that's unique, that's inventive, that's creative? Why would we want to replace the human mind with an artificial mind? And I understand all people don't think good thoughts, okay? But all people have a mind to think. When we fail to think, we're choosing to put our minds on the shelf. We're choosing to not think. And what I think is even more damaging is that we're teaching our children that they don't have to think either. Instead of being participators in life, we are proving them to become and to remain spectators. So I want to share some information with you from an article that I found on Indeed.com, and it's talking about character development. As you know, Indeed is a professional site for helping people to find employment, helping to match up employers with employees. And in that article, it talked about critical thinking. Critical thinking. It says critical thinking allows a person to analyze information and then make an objective judgment. By impartially evaluating the facts related to a matter, you can draw realistic conclusions that will help you make a decision. And then being able to properly analyze a situation, come up with a good, logical, reasonable conclusion, that is something that employers value. Okay, so they talked in the article about what critical thinking is. Critical thinking is the ability to look at situations, look at information, and come up with a rational conclusion. It involves gathering that information on the subject. It involves determining what parts of the information apply, what parts don't apply. It determines making a decision based on what's there, and then using deductive reasoning. And it's an ability that helps people in their personal lives, and it helps people in their professional lives, of being able to critically think. Okay, and it's valued by employers. So remember, we're talking about strategies so that you can remain victorious, strategies that you can remain informed, strategies that you can remain empowered. Being able to think is one of those skills that will help to distinguish you from the individuals who may be in your circle. So why do employers like people who can think? Well, I mean, it's a valuable asset for employers. It helps people to, again, solve problems. Remember, you've heard the phrase, you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. Critical thinkers are problem solvers. Critical thinkers help to save time. They help to save money. They increase their value to the organization. Supervisors and managers, they love people who can come in and help them resolve situations. They would much rather have the people who are helping them to work things out than the people who are creating those problems. So there are 6 skills. There are 6 skills that this article said that critical thinkers have. Okay, and I'm going to share them with you. One is analytical thinking. Analytical thinking is being able to properly analyze information, and it's an important aspect of critical thinking. In fact, it says the most important aspect. This implies gathering information and then being able to interpret what it is that you're looking at. But not just taking it at face value. You look at the information, you evaluate what's there, but you interpret it with a skeptical mindset. Okay. And then when you're doing your research in your topic, analytical thinking helps you to separate the information that matters from the information that doesn't. Okay. Analytical thinking. That's the first step. Once you analyze the information, then you have to communicate it. Good communication, whether you use it for gathering information or convincing others that your conclusions are correct. Good communication is a crucial part of the critical thinking process. Getting people to share their ideas, getting people to share their information, helping people to have them willing to come and talk to you, and then you being able to go and communicate, to share information with them. Okay, that assists us in the critical thinking process. It's not enough to gather the right information if you do nothing with it. Okay, you have to be able to do something with the information that you've gathered. The third skill that helps us with critical thinking is creative thinking. Thinking outside of the box. I say, man, there are some easy answers that we can come up with. It requires no thought. Okay, they're safe. Everybody can come up with that answer. You want to be the person when you've come up with a solution, people say, wow, why didn't I think of that? Okay, and you want to be the person who gives input, and everybody stops and says, we should have seen that a long time ago. Creative thinking. Okay, being able to discover certain patterns of information and then make abstract connections, connecting the dots. That's what you want to be able to do to be a critical thinking. Look at work procedures, look at processes, and then come up with ways to make it more efficient. Come up with ways to do it better, to do it faster. That's a skill set, and not everybody has it, but you can be one of those people. The fourth skill set for critical thinking, open-mindedness, not just having one way of doing things, but being open to looking at things from multiple vantage points, multiple perspectives. Previous education, life experiences that leave a mark on a person's ability to objectively evaluate certain situations. Because you've seen it one time, sometimes you say, you know what, I found something that works. I'm going to stick with that. Okay. But sometimes that also shuts down or prevents us from receiving information that may be valuable, that may be a different interpretation that's more relevant to the current set of circumstances. Being open-minded. That's a fourth one. And we talked about this one already. The fifth skill set for critical thinking is to be able to solve problems. You're part of the problem, you're part of the solution. Be a problem solver. Make things work for other people. Help other people to succeed. Okay? All right. And then the last one is to ask thoughtful questions. Ask questions that cause people to hesitate for a little bit. Okay. Ask questions that make people think, and not necessarily a yes or no question. Okay. Those don't necessarily make people think. It just makes people answer. Open-ended questions. So if you were going to have you ever considered, what do you think would happen if those are the type of questions that are thought-provoking questions, thoughtful questions? It cause people to think, lead people down to a path where they arrive at a specific outcome, preferably a preferred outcome. I'm telling you how to think. What do you think about? How are you thinking? Or are you thinking? All right. Reflective questions, structural questions. Okay. And then put a priority on using examples where those critical thinking skills have helped bring people to an end. Okay. So I've run out of time. There's a lot more that I can say on it. When you're using your skill set, make sure that you're using it to build up other people, not tear them down. Make sure that you're using it to add value to the organization, add value to your current situation. Okay, critical thinking skills. All right, there's this book that I read a lot, and you all have heard me talk about this book a lot. Okay, and there was this popular writer, and he asked a question to his readers. The question said, so how did you all get fooled? How did you get deceived? How did you get bamboozled? How did you get duped with this trickery? He says, what were you doing that allowed this deception to take place? And so I asked the same question from a slightly different perspective, a slightly different way. Okay. My question is, don't you see what is happening? Are you just going to sit there idly by and let this continue? Or aren't you going to do something about this? Okay. What do you think about? Are you using your mind? Okay. Learn to think. Learn to think, and there's a value, there's a benefit that will come to you for doing so. All right. Hey, this is John with the S.T.R.I.V.E session. Strategies to remain informed, strategies to remain victorious, strategies to remain empowered. And it's Wednesday, so we haven't been together in a week. So if no one has come to you in the past week to remind you of just how great you are, to remind you that the world would not be the same if you were not here, to remind you of who you are and what you bring to those people who are in your life, I welcome the opportunity to remind you that today, tomorrow, and forever, okay, you are important. All right. I affirm your greatness. All right. So this is John. You all be blessed, and hopefully we'll see you next week. All right. Bye.